Psychiatry as a branch, it has too many misconceptions. बहुत लोग इसे पागलों की branch कहते हैं. So there's a taboo on that branch. So what made you choose psychiatry at that point?
I did get a little bit of that, by the way, from loved ones. But I was pretty determined I wanted to take up psychiatry.
Tell us the pros and cons of the branch. What would they be?
Stigma, and influencer gurus and pundits.
You have to start your own clinic, then it completely shifts towards more of a counseling part.
100%. That's my criticism of the curriculum.
Ma'am, what would be your advice to a new JR1 joining psychiatry residency?
So sad fact, psychiatrists have extremely high rate of suicides, divorce, and just unhappy lives.
People who have just done MD psychiatry, can they actually excel in this field?
Today they can. In another 20 years, they won't be able to.
Any difference between MD and DNB?
The harsh reality is,
how much can a psychiatrist earn in our country? Hey guys, welcome to the Nachiket Bhatia Show. Today we are going to talk about one of my favorite branches, the branch which people have taken lightly for years, and yet I believe it is one of the most important branches in our country. This field is growing at a booming rate in India, and today we have a very special guest to talk about the field. She's a neuropsychiatrist, a TEDx speaker, a corporate wellness coach, and she has also founded Mind Wellness India. She's also a faculty of psychiatry. Let's put our hands together and let's welcome Dr. Ira Dutta. So, hi Dr. Ira, welcome to the Nachiket Bhatia Show.
hi, thank you for having me. I've been meaning to do this for a very long time.
Ma'am, it's great having you here.
Please no ma'am. First of all, rule of medico world, ye ma'am nahi chahiye, please. Dr. Datta is good, Dr. Ira is fine.
All right. So, Dr. Ira, psychiatry as a branch, it has too many misconceptions. There are so many myths. बहुत लोग इसे पागलों की branch कहते हैं. So there's a taboo on that branch. So we'll talk about everything later. But first we need to know everything about you. How did you start? How did you enter into the field of medicine? Everything.
So just like every typical अच्छा पढ़ाई में बच्चा, my story goes back to पढ़ाई में अच्छे हो डॉक्टर बन जाओ. I think my grandfather instilled that idea. He sowed that inception seed in my head. But at the same time, psychiatry to me is deeply psychology, human behavior, everything around it. I was fascinated by a book when I was little. I still have that same copy, by the way. So that copy is now donkey years old. फट गई है almost. मैंने उसको ठीक करवाया है. The book was called Body Language by Alan Pease. And that book spoke about how different body language can mean different things. And then I got into this whole world of consuming a lot of self-help, a lot of psychology. I think a lot of us do at that age. And got intrigued that, okay, ऐसा भी होता है that in the same situation, two people act very differently. So got me wondering why. Why is that two people act differently in the same situation? So their upbringing, how they think differently, how they are as a person, their personality. So then I was pretty obsessed with the term psychology, everything around it. And I read this word psychiatrist in the newspaper one fine day, sadly in a context of suicide. Somebody had died by suicide and there was one of my mentors was mentioned, my future mentors was mentioned in it. And I said, अरे ये PSY, ये psychiatry होता क्या है? तो बोलना भी नहीं आता था अच्छे से. So I got very fascinated and then I said, okay, you know what, let's get into MBBS. And if this sticks around, then this will be the path that I'd like to take.
Ma'am, when you passed your MBBS and everything, choosing psychiatry at that time, it must have been a difficult decision. Because even now I talk to students and people who have doctors in their families, they are the ones who are super against this branch. They're always like, you can't take this branch.
Yeah.
Ye paglo ki branch, again repeating myself here. So what made you choose psychiatry at that point?
I did get a little bit of that, by the way, from loved ones who said that, अच्छा एक काम करो, गायनक ले लो, लड़की हो, डर्मैट ले लो, तुम्हारी skin अच्छी है. But I was pretty determined I wanted to take up psychiatry. I went to our family physician, I spoke with him, and he was a big fan. He said, fantastic, go for it. So I still remember this funny incident that I think we were sitting somewhere and somebody asked, क्या लिया है? And I said, psychiatry. And they said, क्या? Physiotherapy लिया है? And I said, no, these are two very different things. Funnily enough, now everybody is such a big fan of the fact they're like, तुमने psychiatry लिया है, कितने काम की बात है. Back in the day, my relatives were like, ये क्या बिना हमारी कभी काम नहीं आओगी तुम, ऐसी branch ले ली है. And today everybody is like, you are the one we need the most. So there is going to be backlash from your loved ones if you're taking up this field. I'd like you to know that they will evolve as you will evolve and as the society will evolve. If you're super focused and fixated on it, take it. Let the noise around you be drowned out. There'll always be people who won't like the same color. So then how can they all like the same branch? So do it if you really like it. But yes, psychiatry में वो एक पंगा है. थोड़ा सा ये term जो आपने वाला term बोला जो मैं बोलती नहीं अपने मुंह से because I don't really enjoy it, is very, very much there in the society. But it's gotten better. I promise you that. If today you talk about it versus when I took it, 15 years ago, it was still a taboo. Being a girl, even a bigger taboo. So go for it if you like it.
So, ma'am, 15 years. What are the changes that you have seen in this branch?
Fantastic. Number one, definitely more acceptance that there is something called mental health, which you can't touch, you can't feel, you can't see, but you can feel for certain. So the idea of mental health existing has come into people's head. Once upon a time, we only believed in physical health, things that you can palpably measure and see with your naked eye. Pair toota hai, I can see you're in pain. So the biggest evolution has been the acceptance that mental health naam ki koi cheez hai, aisi chidiya hai. That's the biggest change. At the same time, I do believe that the Western concept has migrated here, where the idea of preventive mental health has also kicked in. The idea that medicines are not all that bad, कि अगर इतनी रिसर्च करके बनी है, कुछ तो साइंस, कुछ तो मेरिट होगा, and with a more educated lot, they go and they read these papers. They ask me extremely good questions. Some of them are extremely smart questions, much like medical students for that matter. So education has also changed the landscape in the way that, okay, this is a valid branch of medicine. It has some merits. Let's find out what's there in it. And finally, I really want to say that self-help industry itself has given the idea that try to help yourself as much as you can. Please help yourself till a point. Then when nothing works, and if it's become a disorder, go see a specialist. So these 3-4 changes over the last 15 years have been palpably different, definitely.
What are the biggest reservations that you have seen in your patients?
Don't tell anybody else that I'm coming to you. Point blank. The funny joke is my husband's a doctor too. He's a spine surgeon. So we go to a party. And funnily enough, we find 2-3 people that either he has treated or I have treated or are treating. Now his patients flock to him. Doctor Saab, ek selfie. Kaise hain? My patients typically run away from me. And no offense, I don't get offended by it. I don't take it personally at all. It's not me they're running away from. It's the idea that nobody should know that they're seeking my help, right? So they run away from me and then they later say, sorry doc, I didn't acknowledge you or I didn't say. By the way, that has also evolved. 10 saal pehle, I would say people were still avoiding me like the plague in parties. In the last couple of years, what's been most profoundly gratifying is people have come up to me in public settings, acknowledged me, shook hands with me, taken a picture with me, introduced me as their doctor to the person that they're with. That for me has been a big, big win. But yes, the reservation still says the fact that don't tell that I'm coming to you. So the hush-hush about it.
So normally what kind of, maximum number of patients come with what kind of problems to you?
Full disclaimer, the kind of clientele I see may be from a certain strata of society primarily. So when I used to work in a government hospital in Bombay, I saw a certain bulk of kind of cases. And that will always depend. Certain societies, certain cultures, certain geographical locations, certain socio-economic part will have different grievances, rightfully so. Jisko roti kapda makan ka issue hai, they will have more from that grassroots level. So the clientele that I see typically comes with high functioning depression, high functioning anxiety. What does that mean? High functioning is not a diagnostic way of saying it. Major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder are diagnostic. But high functioning literally means that you're having almost all of the criteria for these or many of the criteria, but you're still functioning really well. So your day-to-day life is not impacted. That is the most common clientele. Sleep issues is the most common issue that people come to me with, but I call that the tip of the iceberg. जब कोई नींद की प्रॉब्लम लाता है, वो नींद की प्रॉब्लम नहीं लाता है, वो उसके नीचे बहुत सारी और प्रॉब्लम लाता है. Relationship issues, burnout is an alarmingly high rate जो लोग अब recognize करते हैं corporate से, doctors, and they come forward and they say, doc, help me with this. Other than that, clinically, we find generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, substance abuse as an extremely common problem. Nowadays, tech addiction, real addiction, tech addiction, it's on a rampant high. सिर्फ बच्चों में नहीं, आपके मम्मी पापा में भी, you would see most geriatric crowd happily scrolling away while they're talking to you. So that's become fairly common as well. Yes, and the corporate crowd comes with the boss issues, confrontation issues, or how do I stand up to my boss and speak more assertively. So more soft skill issues as well. So this is the spectrum of issues that we see typically in a crowd.
I have a complaint. 90% of you have still not subscribed to the channel. So before moving forward, please go ahead, press the subscribe button and click the bell icon. So when you go deep with the patient, are they normally receptive to your points, or they simply just say ki, okay, this is the sleep issue that I have, solve this. The other things, they do not matter. Does that happen also?
Depends on their awareness, self-awareness, depends on their acceptance, and depends on their style of seeking help. I'll explain. Meaning, if I tell you, आप सीधा नहीं बैठे. Now, if you're not self-aware, अब आपने एकदम से कंधे ठीक कर लिए. There you go. That's actually erect. That's actually straight, right? Ergonomically, feet planted. So, पहली बात है अवेयरनेस. जब हम अवेयर ही नहीं होते हैं तो बहुत सारे लोग डिनाइल में रहने में बहुत खुश हैं. You can please stop. I'm sorry, आपको मैंने इतना conscious कर दिया. But number one is awareness. So when we bring awareness, most people go into denial. Because it's happy to be living under a rock where you're not seeing कि बाहर शेर है. मैं अपनी आंखें बंद कर लेती हूँ. Number two, what are the resources that they truly have to change and what kind of way they want to be guided. You know, in our medical field, there are patients who like to be told, please exercise these many minutes, these many times a week, this way, this exercise, this place, and they're very happy to follow a checklist. But there are patients who are extremely self-motivated and they'll figure it out. So it depends on the receptivity of the person. We try to gauge that. That's what we are trained to do. That तभी जब इंस्टाग्राम पे कोई एडवाइस मांगता है ना तो मैं उनको यही बताती हूँ कि एडवाइस जेनरिक प्रसाद की तरह नहीं है. अगर मैं ऐसे डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करूँगी, इट मे नॉट फिट फॉर यू, इट मे फिट द सेम जीन्स डजंट फिट एवरीबडी. सो इट रियली डिपेंड्स. यू हैव टू सिट एंड यू हैव टू गेज दैट, एंड दैट इज द trick of the trade that you learn. Definitely.
So you have practiced psychiatry almost around 10 to 12 years now.
15, yeah.
15, yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have seen the branch in and out. So if you have to just tell us the pros and cons of the branch, what would they be?
Let's start with cons. Stigma, and influencer gurus and pundits. That's the third con. Because honestly, they are causing more detriment to this particular field by making it sound that as if going to a doctor means the end of the world, or it's wrong, दवाई खिला देंगे, सुला देंगे. So वो stigma ही prepare कर रहे हैं. तो stigma, but stigma in the form of now social media gurus. Pros are, I would say this branch has definitely evolved more towards the preventive aspect, more than just the generic bimari aspect. Psychiatry is the one branch which sees a human being as a whole, and now it is becoming more holistic. We are talking beyond just your medication. We are talking about lifestyle, how you eat, how you sleep, how you exercise. We talk about food as an important aspect. Gut-brain axis has been proven. So that has been a very important pro. Another pro of this branch, I would say, when you take it as a medico, is that it gives you a gratification which really surpasses so much. Just even I'm assuming surgeons feel very gratified when they finish a surgery. Our patients don't necessarily ever get done and go away. They keep coming back even if they're well, to just maintain that wellness. So the gratification in this branch is just a different level altogether, in my opinion.
Have you ever felt that the psychiatry during residency is majorly through disorders and the core psychiatry, and when you actually come into the real world and you have to start your own clinic, then it completely shifts towards more of a counseling part. So I mean, there's a lot of imbalance around in this part.
100%. That's my criticism of the curriculum. मतलब हमें इतनी hardcore psychiatry सिखाई जाती है कि जो soft psychiatry जिसको हम बोलते हैं, that is not taught to us. But luckily, my professor was extremely focused on the fact that you should know real world psychiatry. He always said he'd worked in the army, ex-brigadier, his fundas were always hatkar. So he said, if you don't learn real world psychiatry, you're of no use. Then you're essentially just going to sit and either push pills or you're going to diagnose everybody. So rule number one of psychiatry should be don't diagnose everybody. People often ask me, इसको diagnose कर दो. I'm like, भाई सबको diagnosis नहीं लगता है. What is this need to diagnose everybody? You don't diagnose every behavior. You don't diagnose everybody. Yes, there's pathological behavior. And there is behavior which is subsyndromal and there is behavior which is just regular, but like you and I. गुस्सा आप भी होते हैं, गुस्सा मैं भी होती हूँ, I'm assuming, right? हर एंगर को डायग्नोसिस नहीं करना है. सॉफ्ट साइकाइट्री बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है फॉर एवरी मेडिको टू लर्न, एक्चुअली फॉर medicos to learn, not only for just psychiatrists to learn, because these are soft skills which are going to make you a better listener, a more empathetic doctor, a more approachable person when the patient wants to come to you, and not be just this वो गुरु शिष्य वाला गया है अब system. You can't just tell a patient do this and go away. It needs to be a more collaborative effort overall. And trust me, they respect your boundaries if you have that approach as well. So yes, my criticism of psychiatry curriculum is one of these things. Now we are evolving around that. What we are doing in major colleges in India, we have a lot of workshops. Number one, so where we learn all forms of therapy. We have a lot of certifications as well. We have in-house the psychology team. Typically, a psychiatry department will have a psychology department attached with it in a medical college with proper resources. So we do collaborative work with them. So we don't just necessarily tell them, learn from us. We say, we will learn from you, please. And we work as a team. So that has evolved over the years. I would say 30-40 साल पहले ये नहीं था. अब ये चीज़ बदली है, definitely.
Because, you're telling that not to diagnose everyone. And the number of psychiatry residents I've talked to, the first thing they always tell me is, sir, the moment now, after, being a JR1, you go out and you start seeing problems everywhere. And you start thinking, ki, even I have so many problems in me. So does that happen also?
That's the second year syndrome. Remember pathology? We used to open the book pathology and then we was like, oh, I have this disease, I have this symptom. Yes, it does happen. A very important thing for every psychiatry resident, I would say. Here are my pearls of wisdom I give to anybody picking up psychiatry. Number one, don't diagnose everybody. Okay. Number two, switch off this brain once you're out of OPT. It's hard. It takes effort. It'll take some practice. But if you don't learn to do it, you will have burnout because you can't be operating outside the operation theater, right? Similarly, you need to learn to switch off. Don't overdiagnose your partner's behavior. Don't overdiagnose your parents' behavior. Don't overdiagnose your friends' behavior. So don't do that. And the third, my favorite for every psychiatry resident is go to therapy yourself. If you don't go to therapy yourself, you're basically being hypocritical. You're telling others, come seek help from me. And this goes for all mental health professionals, by the way, through the spectrum. Psychologists too, I tell them the same thing. If you're not consuming what you're selling so much, means you don't really believe in it. आपको मदद की ज़रूरत नहीं है. सारी दुनिया को मदद की ज़रूरत है. It can't be, right? So these are my 3 things I tell every GR1 or anybody picking up psychiatry residency. Just have better peace of mind by doing these 3 things, essentially.
So as per you, what should be the qualities in a person who is going to take up psychiatry as their residency? And the best qualities that they think they should have to actually be successful in this field?
Doc, it's not sports that I need to be really tall to play basketball. So no, a lot of these qualities can be inculcated. I don't believe you need to have a checklist before getting into psychiatry of having met, I need to be an empathetic person, I need to be, I know this is the belief people have, oh, I'm very empathetic, I'll take up psychiatry. Kudos, that's a good plus point, but it's not a mandate by any long shot. A lot of these skills are things that you learn over the time in psychiatry and in practice, and all medicos need it. Don't we need to be listening to the patient's problem before really diagnosing them? Having said that, I think a keen interest. Cognitive malleability is my favorite thing. If you have it, take up psychiatry because you will hear things from people that you will probably never experience in your lifetime, and it will make you question, ऐसा भी होता है. So if your brain is really shut, if you're extremely fixed mindset person, कि ऐसा तो होता ही नहीं है, नहीं लोग कोई अपनी वाइफ को नहीं मारता है, नहीं किसी की गरीबी नहीं होती है, नहीं किसी के घर में ऐसा ट्रॉमा नहीं हो सकता है, then you may want to step away and get a reality check first. So have a cognitive ease, cognitive flexibility, no other strong traits. You don't need to be super empathetic, you don't need to be, all of those are learned traits. You can learn them as you go along. You can be an introvert, you can be an extrovert, you can be somebody who's extremely focused on, just listening and not doing much. वो सारे traits आप सीख सकते हैं, but ये flexible होना चाहिए. for sure.
Well, communication is something which is like non-negotiable, or even that can be learned later.
For every doctor, communication is important. Why only psychiatry?
I think that this is one thing where you know how medicine OPDs work, right? ये दिखाओ, ये दिखाओ, ये दिखाओ, आगे चलो.
मेरे को लगता है वहाँ पे भी गलत है. With due
गलत है,
respect.
but I think वहाँ पे if you have gone through, I mean, any government hospital, the line is so long.
Been there, done that, guilty.
Exactly.
Yes.
But the point is, the moment you start let's suppose a counseling clinic post your MD, and if your communication is not well, you won't be able to succeed in that field.
So like I said, cognitive flexibility allows you to learn all of these skills. कि मैं दूसरे की भाषा, दूसरे के बिना बोले क्या बात कर रहे हैं कभी-कभी, वो समझना. The pauses are what you're taught to read. So yes, basic communication, I believe all medicals should sign up to learn to be better listeners, better, more empathetic human beings, and allowing the patient to park their sorrows in front of you. By communication, if you mean baat nikalna, that's a plus, but we're also taught that. How to question without feeling intrusive, how to question in a manner that the person doesn't feel कि क्या पूछ रहे हैं. मेरे खुद के learning period में, if you take 10 of the residents together, if you take 10 people doing their senior residency together, there would be somebody who was very talkative, there would be somebody who was very quiet, there would be somebody who was extremely to the point, there would be somebody who was extremely long-rooted to explain something to them. All had different set of patients who said, ye doctor best hai. So for every kind of patient, there's a different kind of doctor. That's also my belief. There are patients who don't want to talk much. They want to the point conversation. You should not communicatively try to get the entire lifeline out of them. So yes, communication, hands down, important, but cognitive flexibility is far more important. इसको open रखना है.
इस फील्ड में तो चाहिए ही चाहिए चीज़.
ऐसी चीज़ें सुनने को मिलती हैं जो सोने नहीं देती रात को कभी-कभी. तो वो डाइजेस्ट करने के लिए पहले उसको एक्सेप्ट तो करना बनता है, राइट?
Exactly. My friend is a psychiatrist. इसकी रेजिडेंसी अभी खत्म हो रही है बस. And the day he comes and he talks about, I mean, again he's a psychiatrist in Meerut, and he talks about कि the problems that the real world has, and then you start thinking कि how blessed you are, because people are, I mean,
Suffering, struggling.
there's a lot of suffering. And the reason I was talking about this, that one is, of course, that in medicine you see a lot of diseases, you see a lot of problems, but here you actually tend to see a lot of mental health issues, and you realize that this person is not even in control of himself or herself.
Absolutely.
And the world is going by, the world is going past, and he's just living in a different world altogether. You need to have I believe that personally, you need to have a very high EQ basically, the emotional quotient, to understand that kind of problem.
Absolutely.
And have that kind of patience also.
Absolutely. Because while coming to meet you, I got a call from a patient, and I was on the call, in fact, throughout my travel here. And just to hear him out, just to hear, what's going on, what is the next plan of action, and to make him feel autonomous enough कि decision वो भी ले रहे हैं, मैं नहीं ले रही हूँ उनके लिए. It's a very challenging job. And that dark space, a lot of medicals have entered it, by the way, themselves. Because जब हम prepare कर रहे होते हैं, कितना dark space होता है, back लगती है, कितना ज़्यादा कष्ट होता है, feel नहीं मिलती है, crack नहीं होता है exam. To be in that dark space, everything seems fine on the outside. What's going on inside, only you know. It's like silently screaming, silently crying, but you can't even weep in front of people because, oh, you're a doctor. Wow, life is set, right? Oh, you're a psychiatrist. The worst part, doc, and I have to say this, and please, this is my heart goes out to anybody who is a mental health professional, is हमारे बारे में एक बहुत बड़ा myth है कि हमें कुछ बुरा नहीं लगता. Psychiatrist हो, कभी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती होगी, कभी कोई स्ट्रेस नहीं होता होगा, कभी किसी की बात का बुरा ही नहीं लगता होगा, and oh, you are sorted, you will never have any mental health issue. So sad fact, psychiatrists have extremely high rate of suicides, divorce, and just unhappy lives. That's because we absorb so much burden, we don't do enough for ourselves. So कोई वरदान नहीं मिलता है psychiatry लेकर कि तुमको कोई mental health problem नहीं होगी. But yes, you become more self-aware. We have that gift of, okay, this is bothering me. That's why I didn't sleep very well last night. What can I do about it? It's not that I'm oblivious to it the next day. So it has its perks. It has its
So like
downsides.
therapy is mandatory for mental health professionals.
I go to therapy, and I'm a big fan of it. And I've been to a few therapists of the year. Some have clicked, some have not clicked. Funny part is when you go there, first though you have to drop your own headspace that A, I'm a doctor, B, I know how to do therapy, so I know what this person is also going to talk about. But that's the fun part. When you surrender, you learn so much about yourself that you would not understand otherwise. It's like looking at the mole on your back. You know there's a mole on your back. You can't look at it, right? Somebody has to tell you there's a mole on your back. So going to therapy, even for medicos, why only psychiatrists? I think medicos should avail mental health services in their particular medical colleges. So many medicos reach out to me because I teach and they say, ma'am, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. And I say, please go to the psychiatry department in your college. Go speak with them. It's not a taboo. नहीं मैम पता चल जाएगा, वो मेरे को पास नहीं करेंगे एग्जाम, ऐसा कहीं नहीं लिखा है, ऐसा कहीं कुछ नहीं हो सकता, मेरे प्रोफेसर को बता देंगे. I said, nothing will happen, Baba. You go, you take my name. Okay, you say Dr. Datta ने भेजा है. So it's very important for medicos in today's day and age.
Ma'am, the residency, there's a lot of toxicity nowadays. People, you can see that young medicos are going, the suicide rate, you have seen how things are happening. What would be your advice to young medicos who are going through that, a little bit of toxic phase in their lives? They are being bullied by their seniors, by HODs. How the things are right now. What would be your advice be? How they should handle that kind of toxicity?
Why should it only be their job to handle it, first of all? I think there are three things to it. One, that individual's role in it, what they can do about it, but that's probably the bottom of the pit. Second, what we as just medicos in general need to do about it. Stop this toxicity, stop calling each other ma'am, sir. This is just regressive behavior. We're doctors, that's a great enough title to say in front of each other's name, right? And this hierarchy कि आप मुझसे बड़े हैं उम्र में, पर आप मेरे जूनियर हैं क्योंकि नीट आपका मेरे 1 साल बाद निकला, अब आप मेरे सीनियर हैं कि जूनियर हैं. This dichotomy just doesn't fit well with me. And the third is what the college should do. So there are three things. I think the college should have the main role to play in it. To curb the toxicity, professors need to be more aware about just mental health, not only in psychiatry, all throughout, in general. A lot of professors need to be time and time made to be appraised by us juniors कि कैसा इनका बिहेवियर है, कैसा कितना टाइम हमारी थीसिस को दे रहे हैं, कितना टाइम टीचिंग में दे रहे हैं, कितना टाइम हमको सच्ची में हैंड्स ऑन केस दे रहे हैं. There is nobody answerable to anybody in the medical system if you see, right? What happens in the corporate world, doc? There is a system, there's a team leader, there are people below them, they can appraise the team leader can appraise them. Why not start something like that? It's a very viable model so that तानाशाही नहीं होगी colleges में. पहली बात, teachers, professors को भी आपस में I think they need to be time and time reminded that they are there to make us good doctors and better doctors and resilient doctors. सिर्फ toxicity से थोड़ी ना हम better doctors हो जाते हैं. आपने मेरी ड्यूटी लगा दी, I'll become a great doctor because of that. I don't think so. Senior, junior जब होता है मुझे ऐसा लगता है treat people the way you want to be treated. If I want to be treated nicely, I should treat other people nicely. Why does this stop with दूसरे मुझे अच्छे से ट्रीट करें पर मेरे को ड्रैग किया था, मेरे को बहुत टॉर्चर किया था तो मैं आपको करूँगी कि अब मैं आपकी सीनियर हूँ. Stop it somewhere. It needs to be dropped off at some point. And finally, for the residents or the students themselves, I tell them, call out bad behavior, but also be aware that not everything is bad behavior. Not everything is a red flag. आजकल हम बहुत ज़्यादा non-tolerant भी हो गए हैं. If I have not done my work, and if I have not reported to duty, and if I have not informed you, won't you please scold me and tell me, hey, you are supposed to be here, a patient's life depends on you. So we also need to remember that while we are calling out toxic behavior in others, there's some toxic behavior in us also. I remember I used to be sort of a late sleeper. Now I'm an early riser and an early sleeper. Back in residency, I used to sleep late. So मेरे जो senior था वो बहुत, he and I were very friendly. He was a nice person. But he used to hate that I used to show up late. So he took me to the side and he said, what will it take you to reach here on time? And I said, you know what, can you give me a call in the morning and just give me a missed call? He started and then I could follow through on that. And then I obviously woke up on my own time. But वो गलत behavior मेरे में था. अब अगर इसमें मैं toxicity बोलकर अपने senior को बोलूँ कि आप कौन होते हैं मुझे बोलने वाले. So we need to see two sides of the story. I'm a big fan of supporting our young people, but I also tell them that, listen, we also have responsibility. So it needs to be worked through all three levels. Responsibility lies here, not only there. I should call out bad behavior, whether that's written, verbal, or just assertively saying that, sir, मेरे घर में मेरी सगी बहन की शादी है, मुझे छुट्टी की ज़रूरत है, and if the boss is being extremely difficult, appease to them and say, sir, आप तो psychiatry में पढ़ा रहे हैं, आपको तो पता है emotions कितने important होते हैं, please मुझे शादी में तो जाने दीजिए. That you have to learn to navigate, definitely. Resilience.
But things have, I think, gone literally very south now. You can see residents complaining that we are working almost 36 hours on a duty, and even post that the senior resident would come in and scold us for even a single mistake. They have, I mean, they are not made to go back to the hostel rooms for almost 7 to 8
Yeah.
days in a row. They are
That's
made to
too much.
suppose, they are
Yes.
made to sleep in the residence room only.
Yes.
Now, that thing that you just told us about was the residents always think कि okay मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ था तो मुझे अब ऐसा ही करना है. How to break that kind of mindset?
Self-awareness.
I think again self-awareness is something which is too realistic. I would too optimistic. The word is too optimistic.
Okay.
How to be realistic here?
Okay. So, मम्मी पापा ने कुछ किया था, टॉक्सिक बिहेवियर हमारे साथ हुआ, हम अपने बच्चे के साथ करेंगे. This was the widely proposed idea. My parents have slapped me, I will slap my child, and then my child will slap. This is the only way. So again, doc, हमें ये पता ही नहीं है कि ये टॉक्सिक बिहेवियर है. हमने इसको नॉर्मलाइज किया हुआ है.
This is what I'm saying.
So I think the normalization needs to be chucked off. These residents probably need a lot more training themselves in empathy for themselves and for other people. Can I be honest? You
Please.
cannot be kind to anybody else if you're not kind to yourself. This idea that मैं अपने जूनियर के साथ टॉक्सिक नहीं होंगी, पर मेरा सीनियर मेरे साथ टॉक्सिक था, मैं तो उसको लेके ग्रज लेकर कैरी कर रही हूँ. Somewhere I am carrying that and I need to park it on the side. And that is the work, and that is the work in therapy that we do, honestly speaking. When we ask who really hurt you, they sit with it and then they think about it. Ki, okay, you know what, I've not been hurt by this junior, this is displacement, it's a psychological defense mechanism. डांटा मेरे को प्रोफेसर ने, डांट मैंने इसको दिया, मेरा गुस्से की भड़ास मैंने निकाल दी. What else could I have done with it? Now, most people don't have time for this. If you ask me on a very practical basis, have one or two things that you want to follow as value systems. बहुत practical बात बता रही हूँ आपको. जैसे time की बात कर रही हूँ मैं. I used to be a late Latif. Today and in the last maybe 10 years, I have followed one simple thing. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If I am late, I should have bandwidth for the next person who is making me late to be okay with it. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि मैं किसी को late करवा रही हूँ and अगला person, आप भी या कोई अगला person मेरे को नहीं कर सकता. So कुछ value systems अपनी बांधिए कि ये toxic behavior कि मेरे साथ बुरा हुआ है तो दूसरे के साथ करना है. ये एक value बांध ली ना आपने. Why not shift this value system? मेरे साथ बुरा हुआ है, can it stop here? Can we stop being unrealistic? Is torture the only way for growth for medicos? Is it the only righteous path? अग्नि परीक्षा ही एक परीक्षा है और कोई परीक्षा नहीं है. I think more of us need to just sit and think about it. We don't think about it because it doesn't concern us and we're just doing the same thing. By the way, there are cool seniors too, I've heard from a lot of people. काफ़ी सारों के अच्छे experiences भी होते हैं.
True.
Absolutely. So what have they done different? They've changed their mindset. Ki, I'm not going to be this person. I'm not going to be a joke to the next person. So why not more of us?
True.
Right? Traffic की बात ले लीजिए. If you're honking, somebody else is honking at you. Can I stop honking unnecessarily? Maybe the next person will stop honking unnecessarily.
Ma'am, what would be your advice to a new JR1 joining psychiatry residency? How they should utilize the 3 years to the maximum? कैसे सीखे, कैसे, you know, how to appease their seniors and have a balanced residency?
First year should be only observational and educational because that's the time when everything you observe, you should go back and open your DSM, your ICD, your CTP and literally read. आज मैंने ये देखा है, इसका मतलब क्या है, इसके पीछे थियरी क्या है. Because suddenly in 6 months share जो स्पीड होती है वो बढ़ जाती है एंड फिर आपको पढ़ने का मौका नहीं मिलता है. जो भी देख रहे हो, राइट इट डाउन एंड जस्ट इमीडिएटली गो एंड रीड इट. डोंट ट्राई टू लर्न द प्रिस्क्रिप्शन पार्ट ऑफ इट टू फास्ट बिकॉज दैट्स समथिंग यू लर्न विद टाइम. Pick up a mentor in your department whose style resonates the most with you. So there would be somebody, like I said, you know, somebody who's really a quiet listener, somebody who's थोड़ा सा talkatively निकाल लेने वाला person. Try to just emulate what properties they are having. But that doesn't mean कि दूसरे की नहीं करनी है, दूसरे की भी properties चाहिए. When it comes to appeasing a senior, I think that sounds extremely like a people-pleasing thing to do. I don't want people to appease to people because वो hierarchy फिर हम उसको basically वही कर रहे हैं, right? Look, some seniors are going to demand you respect me because I came here first, I'm 1 year older than you, or I came here 1 year before you. But you need to necessarily find your own space in that crowd and become resonant of something. You're what guy? You're the guy who's the most reliable guy. You're the guy who's, the most easy to communicate with guy. You're the guy who shows up on time. You're the guy who can be given difficult patient duties. What kind of role you want to subscribe to? Find a niche in that. Don't waste time in एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट को चेंज करने में. 6 महीने तो किसी का बिहेवियर समझने में लग जाते हैं. ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग, अपने बिहेवियर पे वर्क कर सकते हैं हम उस दौरान पे, अपनी पढ़ाई पे कर सकते हैं. पढ़ाई में अच्छे होंगे, योर प्रोफेसर्स विल ऑब्वियसली टेक बेटर नोटिस ऑफ यू. ओके, दिस गाय, ही नोज व्हाट ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट. ही इज 6 months JR, knows more than 3rd year, right? Fantastic. So maybe become resonant with what is under your control and not necessarily outside. Suddenly shift gear होंगी and then हो जाएगा thesis का time. Now is the time that you need to sit and realize that आपको जो thesis मिली है उसको आपने कैसे manage करना है अपनी residency के साथ. I had sadly taken 500 people sample size, worst idea of my life, over ambitious. So be aware कि जो आप thesis ले रहे हैं वो सच्ची में other than publications and other than conferences, it's not going to change your private practice trajectory. Nobody's ever asked me what my thesis was about. Nobody's ever asked me. Ever, and nor will they, unless I become an academician and I become a research person and I go into entirely that. So choose what you want to research in. If you're really passionate, pick up something that's either been in your mind for the longest time. Get your senior to see merit in that. And honestly, first 6 months are what we call the adjustment phase. Just adjust your vibe, your sleep, your eating, your vibe to the department. Each department is different, so it's very hard to just extrapolate to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely do not believe in the sir ma'am culture, right?
I'll be honest, I do say sir and ma'am to seniors who expect me to say sir and ma'am. But for me, this sir and ma'am creates a barrier between you and me. आपके मेरे बीच में एक जो real communication हो सकता है वो ख़त्म हो जाएगा. And मुझे उसमें थोड़ी सी तकलीफ है. देखिए, वैसे ही पेशेंट्स के साथ एज आई एम अ डॉक्टर वो एक दीवार वहाँ पे भी क्रिएट होती है, राइट? सो आई ऑलवेज आस्क अ पेशेंट, व्हाट वुड यू लाइक मी टू कॉल यू? वुड यू लाइक मी टू कॉल मिस्टर ABC? वुड यू लाइक मी टू कॉल यू बाय योर फर्स्ट नेम? एंड दे से, ओके, व्हाट कैन आई कॉल यू? एंड आई से, यू कैन कॉल मी डॉक्टर एरा, यू कैन कॉल मी डॉक्टर दत्ता. Ma'am, sir in my head sounds very distancing and extremely senior juniorish. Very अंग्रेज छोड़ गए ये टर्मिनोलॉजी हमारे लिए.
रेजिडेंसी में होना चाहिए कि नहीं होना चाहिए?
देखिए, चाहिए तो अब ये नॉर्म है, इसको तोड़ने के लिए बहुत साल लगेंगे. तो आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू बी द फ्लैग बेरर ऑफ सेइंग कि अभी बदलना चाहिए. बट येस, माय सीनियर्स, इफ दे आर फोकस्ड ऑन द फैक्ट कि सर 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 बोलना है, आई विल सी इट. बट if a junior asks me, what can I call you? I say, please call me by my first name. I'm more than happy if you call me by my first name. Or you call me Dr. Datta, or you call me Dr. Era, or you call me Doc. It's perfectly fine. रियल लाइफ प्रैक्टिस की बात में तो स्पेशली आप मुझे बताइए, आप कब पास हुए, मैं कब पास हुए. वी नॉट गोइंग टू सिट एंड डू दैट मैथ. सो सर मैम इज डिस्टेंसिंग. इन द वेस्ट, डू पीपल रियली कॉल सर मैम? व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स?
I think they are more about doctor and the first name itself.
Because this title itself has so much gravity in it. And when we are announcing on the podium as well, Dr. So and so, उसके आगे आप सर लगाने की क्या ज़रूरत होती है? वो डॉक्टर पदवी बहुत बड़ी है हमारी. That itself is so much weightage. So that's my personal opinion. I don't want to impose it on people. Yes, anybody who calls me ma'am, छोटे हों बड़े हों. And I also ask, shall I call you XYZ ma'am? जो कहता है जी, ठीक है, मैम बुला देंगे. Perfect. आप बोलेंगे हम आपको सर बुला देंगे.
ठीक है. So Dr. Ira, what about super specialization in the field of psychiatry? Do you think that people you have just done MD psychiatry in today's world, all right, can they actually excel in this field, or a fellowship or super specialization degree is required?
Today they can. In another 20 years they won't be able to. So it's not the need of the hour, but it will be in the next couple of, like in the next 2 decades mostly. Same as once upon a time where MBBS could manage everything, and they still can. More power to them. I'm a big fan of MBBS. I think generalists are really as important as specialists. But in 20 years, we're not going to be as relevant. Child psychiatry, de-addiction psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, and now there are other things as well. There's postpartum, a very big niche in itself. For that matter, there is psychedelic assisted psychotherapy I was telling you about. So that's another realm of psychiatry. Non-invasive brain stimulation, your ECT, your RTMS, all of these. So there's a lot happening. OCD is a subspecialty. In 20 years, people will say, okay, you know what, I understand you have this. Now I'd like you to go to this super specialist.
So, I mean, is there any super specialization, proper degree like an MCH or DM in the field of psychiatry?
Absolutely. There are 3 recognized DMs in India: geriatric, child, and there's de-addiction. The main centers off the top of my head are NIMHANS, of course, KGMC. PGI Chandigarh also has de-addiction, if I'm not wrong. These are fully recognized DMs, the proper 3-year. So you do 5.5-year MBBS, you do 3-year MD Psychiatry or DNB Psychiatry, and then you go on to do your DM, just as any other DM. Then there are these fellowships. In fellowships, NIMHANS runs a fantastic program of 1-year PDFs, postdoc fellowships, where they have OCD, they have postpartum, peripartum psychiatry, they have OCD, they have non-invasive brain, they have forensic, they have depression, resistant depression, anxiety clinic, psychosomatic clinic. These are all 1-year PDFs. You can also do it from abroad. I did this psychedelic assisted psychotherapy course, more certification, not a degree, of course. That's overseas. That was from Harvard. India mein abhi nahi start hua hai. So there is a lot to be done.
You have listed down a lot of super specialization fellowships and everything. So as per you have to list down from, the most potential to the least. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How would you rate them up?
Child geriatric de-addiction. Child, because people are always very focused on preventing mental health issues in children, and there's more awareness. More parents are coming forward. ADHD is getting diagnosed far earlier. LD is getting diagnosed far earlier. We are trying to get support to these children. So definitely child. Geriatric, because the bulk of our population is going to be geriatric in the next few years. We're already seeing the average geriatric age has increased. Geriatric medicine is also a very viable field in the same way. And de-addiction, because addiction has always been rampant, and as the burden of mental health will grow, addiction will sadly grow.
Let's talk about MD and DNB. So is there any bias in this field or any difference between MD and DNB?
On the ground level, yes. Sadly, if you go to a corporate hospital and you ask them, hey, can I empanel with you? They will ask you, are you MD doctor or not? Because sadly, some of these are managed by people who are not doctors themselves. So they will not know what a DNB is. So at the ground reality level, I have to say yes. Meaning, when I had gone to join a MNC hospital, मैंने बोला मैं DNB हूँ, तो उन्होंने मुझे एक तरह से थोड़ा ना की तरफ करने लगा और मैंने कहा MD भी हूँ. Oh, acha, okay, then we'll consider you. So this is a first-hand this thing I'm telling you. In general also, if you ask आम जनता, MD एक word पता है लोगों को, DNB डिप्लोमा के बीच में उनको distinguish नहीं करना आता है, तो वो कभी-कभी DNB सोचते हैं कि डिप्लोमैट की वजह से वो डिप्लोमा समझ लेते हैं. So the harsh reality is in big metros, yes, it matters. Smaller tier cities, I'm assuming it doesn't matter as much because वहाँ पे तो doctors ही नहीं हैं, तो उनकी बहुत ज़रूरत है. If you have both, great. If you have a MRC psych, if you ask me, foreign return doctor, yes, India is crazy कि अरे आप बाहर से पढ़ के आए हैं, बहुत ही बड़ी बात है. Although MRC psych MD equivalent है, DNB सब equivalent है. Teaching, non-teaching में भी फ़र्क पड़ता है. Yes, your number of experiences. But if you ask me, did I feel that it was imperative? No. But it's a great one extra degree to have. Why not?
And private practice, I mean, when you're doing it, does it really matter, MD or DNB?
People like too many things written behind your name. So yes, from that matter, जितनी चीज़ें नाम के पीछे लिखी होती है, MBBS, MD, DNB, but in reality, no, not necessarily. No. So it really depends how you position yourself. You don't have to feel underconfident if you are DNB psychiatry or DNB anything. You have to position yourself strongly and you have to educate the people. There are still people who don't know what psychiatry is. There are still people who assume when they see me that I'm a psychologist. And I have to clarify, no, I'm a psychiatrist. And they ask me, what is the difference? Sorry to say, there are doctors who don't know the difference. So don't worry about it. In psychiatry particularly, don't stress about it. It's absolutely fine.
So can you give us the top 5 MD institutes for psychiatry in our country and also for top 5 DNB?
We'll start with MD, right? NIMHANS, hands down, Mecca, Medina of psychiatry. AIMS, of course, PGI, in west side of the country, CIP. And the fifth one, I want to be giving it to maybe IBHAS, but IBHAS has DNB as well, so I want to keep that as a mixed option. Having said that, I wish I had more names, like one from each state. Yes, there are good colleges. KEM is also a very good program. Nair is a great program in Mumbai, जैसी जगह में. Down south, sorry, my information is limited. NIMHANS के आसपास फिर सब जो चीज़ें हैं वो थोड़ी हो जाती हैं. वरना JIPMER is also a very good institute for psychiatry particularly. Having said that, the trends also change sometimes based on who's heading the department. So right now, the heading of these departments is by solid people, solid personalities.
So what's so special about NIMHANS?
Oh, NIMHANS. NIMHANS is NIMHANS. First, I did a non-invasive brain stimulation course there, which was the first time that they had launched it. And I got my first-hand experience of NIMHANS. And it's a different world altogether. Everything is psychiatry there, pehli baat. State of the art, जो चाहिए आपको वो technologies होती हैं. Research is at a different level altogether. It's one place where people will go to if somebody is not getting treated anywhere, then they sort of are referred to NIMHANS. जैसे end stage cancer में कहाँ भेजा जाता है? टाटा भेजा जाता है. So typically it becomes like that for NIMHANS. So fantastic faculty, fantastic teaching program, fantastic liaison psychiatry, which is very important. आपको एक से दूसरे department में भी काम करने को मिलता है. And great patient flow. So IPT, OPT, and जो चाहिए आपको है. So NIMHANS is NIMHANS, definitely.
Let's talk about some fellowships here. I mean, you just said that, the patients want that if it's a foreign returned doctor, it has a lot of value. So what fellowships can you recommend to our audience, that these are the fellowships that they can absolutely do to gain a lot of value in their name?
Right. Sexual medicine is a very common fellowship that you can pick up in Europe. It actually happens annually, and there's a short course attached with it. That's very common. Most other fellowships actually do require you to either apply through Indian bodies like Indian Psychiatric Society. So Japan offers one fellowship, more of an observership / fellowship kind of a program. I think Korea also had started, but maybe because of language, not too many. But Japan is very hospitable that way. Australia has a couple of fellowships, the RA and ZCP. If you've given it, then you can pick that up directly after your MD. You can even then pick up a job there. But having said that, again, fellowship अभी इंडिया में इतना नहीं psychiatry में हुआ है. Like I go back to saying that psychiatry को ही इतना जगह नहीं मिल पाती है, and people in non-metros, people in tier 2, 3 do pretty much everything. So whether that is de-addiction, whether that is OCD, schizophrenia, सब कुछ manage करते हैं. So it's less. Child psychiatry in all India में काफ़ी जगह होता है. दिल्ली में डॉक्टर दीपक गुप्ता वो host करते हैं child psychiatry की fellowship. It's a certification he has started. It's a fairly good one. In PGI Chandigarh, they run a few sexual medicine and forensic, if I'm not wrong, fellowships. Again, the way to apply if you're a student would be ideally through your department, because if your professor can get you a letter of recommendation, is the best. So the best time to apply would be in your final year or just after, just in your senior residency. And the other way to apply would be through the Indian Psychiatric Society body. Once you become a member, which you have to become a member, हमारी वेबसाइट्स पे आता रहता है कि कहाँ कहाँ हम आपको फेलोशिप के लिए भेज सकते हैं. कुछ अर्ली करियर साइकाइट्रिस्ट के लिए होती हैं जो पहले 5 साल के लिए होती हैं. उसके लिए आपको अपनी इंडियन बॉडी की अब्रॉड जाने के लिए भी यू कैन जस्ट गेट द रिकमेंडेशन. सो दैट्स द वे टू गो अबाउट इट.
And I'll ask you the most prevalent question of our podcast, which is, how much can a psychiatrist earn in our country? Immediately after their MD, 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line.
This is the most dreadful question on your podcast, isn't it? Most happening and dreadful. Okay. My data would be based on my research from almost last year. I had sat down and researched after reading one of your posts, I recall. On an average, the starting salary in senior residency depends on the state you are in. For example, I did my senior residency in Maharashtra. It's a measly 40 to 50,000. About 10 years ago, of course, right? Now it is about 60 to 80, right? Delhi, huge. The SR salary is extreme. It's 1 lakh plus, right? Now, having said that, after you finish your senior residency and you start, we'll do two routes. We'll do ACAD route and we'll do private practice route, right? So we're still on the ACAD route. So if you do your senior residency, you finish your 3 years of senior residency, and then you go on to either divert this way or you go on to go up the ladder. So depending on the state, there could be allowance for you to non-practice allowance जिसको बोलते हैं, और कुछ states non-practice allowance नहीं देती हैं. जैसे कि महाराष्ट्र में non-practice allowance नहीं जहाँ मिलता है, वहाँ पे you're allowed to do private practice along with a government job also, or municipal job also. So there again you can make a lot more. But typically a professor, associate professor would make about 3.5 to 4, and then going on up the ladder. Now we'll go the private route, and I'm more confident in answering the private route, right? Really depends where you are practicing. If you're practicing in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or metro city. Meaning, let me tell you the diversity of the charges of a psychiatrist from the minimum to what it can go up to. A psychiatrist can charge anywhere between 300 rupees for a session, and that session, depending on the psychiatrist style, may last for 15-20 minutes or an hour, depending on their way, to even 10 to 15,000 rupees for a session. The session could be 30 minutes also, and it could be only by appointment. And this I'm saying in a very measly way. There are psychiatrists who charge a lot more with patients who require extreme privacy. They want you to shut down your clinic, and they want essentially only them to be there for the next 1 hour or 2 hours, and they don't want anybody to come before and after. You can charge, you can mark up your prices, because honestly, it's the privacy as well that really matters in our field. Now let's add the add-ons. If a psychiatrist is running a clinic which has 10 psychologists, so you're also earning from the psychologists. Every psychologist is either on a payroll or you're taking a percentage fraction from them. I'll give you a number, don't worry, the numbers are coming. Now the third model would be a psychiatrist having a private inpatient setup. Those inpatient setups are typically anywhere from about 15 bed to onwards. Primarily de-addiction is what most people start off, and they can have long-term stay as well. Now, de-addiction is another game as well. We'll come to that altogether. So yes, in the first few years in private practice, you can earn from a starting point of about couple of lakhs, 2.5 to 3 lakhs, to up to 10, 15 lakhs easily. 5 years ke baad, it's exponential. Why is it exponential? Because now you have networked your way around. Now you have a standing in society. You may also be doing your OPD in different parts of a city. So you're not sticking to just one place. And how you position yourself. If you're seeing masses and you're charging 500 bucks is the average rate that most psychiatrists would charge. If you're seeing 500 rupees and you're seeing maybe 40 patients a day, morning, evening ka mila ke keh rahi hu main OPD, so do the math. But if you're charging maybe like about 5,000 rupees, you're not going to be able to see 40 patients because you're going to give them a lot more time. So you're probably going to be able to see about 10, 15, 20, 15 patients odd. So 15 into 5,000 is 75, and 500 into 40 is about 20. Yes, so that's the average daily income. The add-ons that we were talking about, there are tests, there's psychometry, there are psychologists doing different kind of therapies. You can amp up your OPD by having biofeedback, which is essentially those cool VR goggles and then having things around it. You can have a child psychiatry setup where you have a play therapy area. Then you can have for occupational therapy a specific area. So you can have a 5-level psychiatry OPD only, catering to different niches in itself. When it comes to de-addiction is where big money making happens, because essentially that involves a patient coming in and staying for a long period of time. Now, an average room, if it's being shared by 4 people versus a luxury room, in some of the luxury rehabs that I'm aware of, they can charge up to 50,000 rupees a room also for a day. So that's a lot of money. But these are extremely private, luxurious, master chef level, chef makes you the food and gives you. So all of that does exist in India. I'm not talking about abroad. I'm talking about India. These are places where I have referred people. These are places where I've heard first-hand review of people. I've spoken to the psychologist, psychiatrist there. So psychiatry is a very interesting field. You can make not as much as a surgeon. I hate to say that to you. You will not be able to make as much as a surgeon. Don't put that as a comparison. But you can make really as well as maybe a physician, MD physician, MD medicine, who is working a lot many more hours, and your number of hours are going to be much lesser. So the sky is your limit. You can make tons of money. ऐसा नहीं है, गरीब फील्ड नहीं है हमारी. अमीर भी नहीं है, गरीब भी नहीं है, is what I want to leave it at.
चलो ये तो अच्छी बात है.
That's what. So people are extremely conservative about the idea of how much to charge as well. And there are a lot of psychologists who charge a lot more, let me tell you, than psychiatrists. And no disrespect to that. Maybe they justify their niche or the branding or the way they are going. Or the therapy is what they believe. But yes, psychiatrists can position themselves in that way as well. Nobody's said no to that. There is no stopping if you know what you're doing and clarity of that.
You know, when a psychiatrist sets up its clinic, so I'll get onto the financial part of the clinic as well. I think the biggest struggle that everybody has is that a clinic to khol li, how to get the first patient. What would be your advice?
So, Doc, I had started a small webinar for young psychiatrists who just finished and they want to start their private practice. And we took a few of them on board and we started kind of, brainstorming with them, giving them the blueprint that had worked for me, honestly. This is what I've realized. Number one, you decide what do you want to position yourself as. If you want to position yourself as seeing everything, that's one possibility. And as doctors, we are taught, sab kuch treat karo, generalist. But you can also be a specialist within your psychiatry domain. So I tell people, do you want to niche down? Which means you would be surprised. There are psychiatrists who only see headaches. Only and only headaches. There are psychiatrists who only see sexual medicine. And they do far better than those who have general OPD.
Absolutely.
So first thing I tell young folks that, hey, do you want to be known for a particular thing in your city or in your state or whatever? So that even if another psychiatrist says, you know what, I'm stumped with this case of headache, I just don't want to treat it, I don't know what to do. Let me send it to my friend because I know he's only going to treat headaches. Let me refer to my counterpart. That's one. Number two, we really don't need too much investment. We need a chair, a table, a pen, and a paper. That's about it. I started very humbly in my private practice. Fun fact, I started with I'm not joking, an OPD exactly this size in Bombay. Bombay, as you know, jagah kam hoti hai. And I used to co-rent it. It was a polyclinic where other doctors also sat. So you can actually start with a space this small. You don't need to worry about it. So don't invest in a very swanky OPD if you can't afford it. If you can afford it, go for it. Now I have a swanky OPD, right? Now at the same time, be very mindful that you will need to market yourself in today's day and age. Gone are the days when word of the mouth was the only way. Yes, word of the mouth is always going to be the strongest way to get patients. But you need to have different channels of putting yourself out there. How? If I was to start, let's simplify. If I was to start my practice today, in 2025, in a place like Delhi or in a place like Bombay, I'll say Bombay because experience raha hai Bombay, Calcutta, right? If I was to start my OPD, I would certainly not spend on making it like the most grandest one, but I would make it aesthetic and sweet. I would reach out to patients not only through the social media aspect that today's generation keeps on focusing on. Conventional is the best, doc. I have sent flyers in newspapers. सुबह 6 बजे जाके मैंने खुद खड़े होके जो पेपर में डालता है उसको बोला हुआ है भैया डालो, and I felt so gratified with that effort कि मेरे सामने डाल रहा है. एंड फनी पार्ट जब खोल के अपने न्यूज़पेपर में भी आया मैंने कहा अच्छा ठीक है लोगों को पहुंचा है. पैम्फलेट्स वर्क इन Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. There is no kidding to that. आज भी वो पैम्फलेट वाला सिस्टम चलता आ रहा है. न्यूज़पेपर में आर्टिकल्स डालना definitely very, very, very important because you're reaching the masses. Having radio interviews, having podcast interviews, having social media presence, and then initially being available is the most important part. Young folks, what they do, and what I also was about to make a mistake in the beginning was, I started working in Fortis as a consultant, fairly young. I was still in my 20s, and क्योंकि मैं वहाँ सबसे छोटी young psychiatrist थी, तो मेरे को staff ने बोल दिया आपके पास कोई नहीं आएगा, सब senior doctor के पास जाएंगे, और मैंने believe कर लिया. So I remember one fine day I called them up and I said, patients हैं? And they said नहीं हैं, and I didn't go. And then I sat to myself and I said, what if one of the senior doctors wasn't there and I got one of the patients? Lo and behold, I went to the OPD. चलो ठीक है, बैठते हैं. I probably had the most number of patients in my OPD that day, in my first few months. Always be available. That's the rule of being a good physician. अगर आपने OPD की टाइमिंग लिखी है 4 से 7, आप 4 से 7 वहाँ होने चाहिए, क्योंकि किसी पेशेंट ने आपका बोर्ड पढ़ा है 4 से 7 और वो आएगा 4 से 7, वो कोई फ़ोन नहीं करेगा, they'll just walk in. So be available, be presentable, be marketing in the ethical manner of things, and do camps in the beginning. Doing camps is extremely helpful. Doing camps is also your way to give back to the society. Doing camp is also a way to go to the peripheral areas. Like if I am here in Delhi, I would like to go to the more far-flung areas of Delhi, जहाँ पे लोगों को मेरा नाम पता चल जाए. So these conventional methods are the way that you start getting patients. And gradually, goodwill, good faith, people will come to you. Don't run behind numbers. Run behind sustaining the patient. Psychiatry में अच्छा माना जाता है अगर एक पेशेंट आपके पास बार बार आए तो उसका आपके ऊपर भरोसा बैठा है. My biggest win of a day is when a patient from 10 years ago calls me up and say, आपने मेरे को 10 साल पहले प्रॉब्लम से बाहर निकाला था, I can only trust you. For me, that is worth 10 new patients who have not worked with me. So certainly stick to that patient and have that patient feel good at the end of it.
Consultant friend of mine told me this thing, that they have seen, especially in tier 3 cities or tier 2 cities even, people are not comfortable going to a psychiatrist in their own area, and they would prefer to go to a psychiatrist in a tier 1 city, a metropolitan basically.
Yes.
Again, true?
Quite often. Number one, if they can afford to visit the tier 1 city or the metro city, absolutely. Number two, they believe that they'll go to the OPD and they'll see 5 other people whom they already know, and they will tell that ye un doctor ke paas aaye the. So interestingly enough, I only work online at the moment, doctor. I don't work physically. Barely, rarely do I see physically. So the point being, पहले मेरी OPD में एक टाइम पे एक ही परिवार से अलग अलग पीढ़ियों के 2 लोग बैठ गए थे और उनके साथ के परिवार वाले, और उनमें अब ये दुविधा थी कि अब डॉक्टर के यहाँ आए हैं, अब एक दूसरे की शक्ल दिख रहे हैं. Luckily to the rescue, my clinic is also used by my husband and I use the clinic. So one of them must have said कि हम उनको दिखाने आए हैं. Spine दिखाने आए हैं is more acceptable than mind दिखाने आए हैं, right? But yes, this does exist. Telepsychiatry is to the rescue. One thing that I did not touch enough upon was online consultations are also extremely a good way for a young new psychiatrist to start learning how to just talk, communicate, soft skills that we were talking about. And even if it's in the same city, in a tier 3 city, you can tell the patient, आप मुझे online दिखा लीजिए, कोई बात नहीं है, आपको शहर नहीं जाने की ज़रूरत, आप मुझे यहाँ online दिखा लीजिए. So that's a way that you can reach out to people in your area.
One problem that every young medico goes through is when they open up their private practice, they, for example, let's suppose they started with 300. They do not know the technique how to increase their fees basically.
Absolutely.
What is your advice?
हमें सिखाया नहीं है ना कॉलेज में.
हमें तो फाइनेंस का तो कुछ नहीं सिखाया
नहीं
किसी ने.
सिखाया. It's such a bad thing. मैंने ट्विटर पे इस पे एक चर्चा छेड़ी थी कि when do you all increase your fees and like how and what is the math behind it, right? इतने वेरिड रिप्लाइज मिले कि आई रियलाइज कि हमारी कंसेंसस नहीं है सबकी, किसी की भी नहीं होगी. सो आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू माई वर्जन ऑफ इट, व्हाट आई हैव डिस्कस विद अ फ्यू फ्रेंड्स एंड हैज वर्कड फॉर मी एंड देम. But at the same time, I think as doctors, we should have some SOP behind it. This is my appeal to just somebody to tell us that we should be allowed to increase our fees. जब आटे चावल का भाव बढ़ता है, we should be allowed. There's no, we're not robbing anybody. We are nice people who are on a path to help people have a better life. We deserve to be paid. And no, it does not make us money-minded. It makes us, we are deserving. अगर मेरा घर किसी ने बनाया है, मैं उनको वो पैसे दूंगी मेरे घर बनाने के लिए. और अगर 5 साल पहले उन्होंने मेरा घर बनाया था और 5 साल बाद बनाया है, उसमें अंतर होना चाहिए. I cannot expect them to work on those previous Cement is not the same price. Gold is not the same price. So here's what I tell young folks. For the first couple of years, maybe lay low and not do too much of movement. After a point, when you feel like your demand-supply ratio is getting skewed, that you're having so many appointments that now you cannot justify, essentially, that if I keep charging at the same rate, I'm having had to say no to a lot of people, correct? Maybe then think of anything about like a 10% increase in tariff, but inform every patient. Now, how do you inform every patient? Put a notice in your OPD saying, with effect from maybe 3 months later, the fees, नए साल से, the fees is going to be revised at this. Maybe you can even go on to say that नए patients की fees इतनी होगी, पुराने की हम वैसे ही रखेंगे. It's your choice, entirely your choice. But do that. You know why? Because that also shows that you are charging what you're worth. I've done this. I've put those circulars, and there have been equal number of people who have felt great about it, and there have been equal number of people who have felt unhappy about it. In psychiatry, there's another model that doctors can charge, and this is again a Western model. In psychiatry and in therapy, you actually charge by the minute. So a consult is not supposed to be typically just a consult, a meet, because I'm sorry to say, a consult can even last 2 hours. If you're telling me something which is so hurtful in your life, you can be sobbing in front of me for 2 hours. I am not supposed to stop you and say, bhago yahan se, right? A lot of psychiatrists also charge by the time slots. That's another way to then take your fees in the manner that you feel, instead of doing just 10-minute consult, I would like to give people 30 minutes of therapy slots or 50 minutes of therapy slots. That's another way to charge. But yes, medicos should increase every 1.5 years or every financial year, sit with their accounts and say, is my demand supply getting skewed? Am I not available for too many patients and only available for X number because I charge this much, so this is demand hai? And revise it. Keep it transparent. Revise it. Yeah. Another funny thing I find, and I want to know your opinion about it. Why do doctors charge differently for their first consult and then their follow-up fees? A lot of doctors do. They will charge X, मान लीजिए 1000 रुपए पहली फीस. Corporate hospitals में भी ऐसा होता है. 800 रुपए follow-up fees. Why is that?
It's an incentive for the patient to come back.
Okay, and the assumption is first time the doctor took longer and the second time the doctor won't. Psychiatry में ऐसा नहीं है. Hate to say this. So when I worked in a corporate hospital, I said, no, I can't have variable charges. I need to have the same. They said, no, we do this for all our doctors. I said, I understand. But the other doctors take 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 12 minutes. I take 25 minutes to 30 minutes with everybody. So it's only fair that my charges stay recurrent. These are battles you have to fight for yourself. And I think financial literacy is lacking in the Indian medico. I wish they taught us this as a subject, how to make money from alternative sources of income, ethically, passive क्या होता है, invest कहाँ करना है, तुम्हारी worth क्या है, ये सारी चीज़ें हमें सिखानी चाहिए.
How did you learn financial literacy?
Very interesting. My husband and I met in medical school. Interestingly, we learned together. That's one. So we learned with each other. My husband, in fact, went on to even write a book on financial literacy with the same mindset that not enough people know about what are financial literacy terms for that matter. And I learned through a lot of trial and error because I'm first generation doctor. I'm not even a generational doctor. So there was not really anybody to guide me. I met a lot of good people around the way. I must say that I've been fortunate that good people gave me some sound good advice. बुरी advice भी थी, filter करनी आनी चाहिए, हर type की advice होती है. But I've learned through the trial and error, honestly. And which is why one of my favorite thing to do is to help young medicos. जो भी पूछता है psychiatrist मुझे फ़ोन करके बोलता है मैम मेरी OPD स्टार्ट की है कैसे पेशेंट करूँ मैं कहती हूँ जो पेशेंट मैं नहीं देख पा रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं ट्रैवल कर रही हूँ या मेरे पेशेंट लिस्ट फुल है मैं आपको भेज दूँगी सो बांटने की एक इच्छा भी रहनी चाहिए एंड honestly it'll all work out. A lot of jobs that I left, I got my psychiatrist friends to join there instead of me. All trial and error, doc. There was really nobody to guide. So it's unfortunate, But I hope this can help somebody else. And that's why your podcast is so useful to young medicos who don't have to then figure out everything on their own. They can navigate through these pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, this is what we are trying to build here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's entirely there. I wish this was there when I was a medico. I was a young medico.
Ma'am, are you scared of AI entering into the field of psychiatry? Because I've seen a lot of people, coming in and telling us that the new models of AI, they are so good in critical thinking, they're so good in communication.
Yeah.
They have started understanding the emotion if you give a good prompt. And things might go so, south for real psychiatrists that they can be replaced.
I love AI. I swear by AI for many things. Yes, I am critical of certain aspects of it. Having said that, the fear to be replaced is not really there. This is probably one field that does require human touch, number one. Number two, I'm sorry, but a lot of therapy may get replaced. I understand. But medical, legitimate diagnosis and prescriptions, if it's going to be replaced for a psychiatrist, it's going to be replaced for all of us doctors, all 19 of us, right? That's not going to happen because if you see something like a Bitcoin or something like cryptocurrency, there are fears around it, which is why the state doesn't make it a mainstream. The state is always going to prefer a human doctor. The government is always going to have that part backed out. They're going to be apprehensive around it. I don't know what's going to happen in 50 years. I'm not scared of AI. I tell people if you're going to be scared of AI, then you're not going to be cognitively malleable to adapt to it. I like to use it. And I like to use it to sometimes even just understand that what all has it already learned, which took me 15 years to learn. And there are fundas which it has learned. But yes, the only criticism of AI is that A, it's an echo chamber at this moment, at least. Everything I give it, it says, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's the one place it says ma'am very loudly. And it just agrees with everything I do. So funny thing, doc. You have to hear this. A lot of my patients, after this whole AI therapy bit started, right? AI became the therapist. Sadly, it led to push some young people into suicide, by the way. And that was very, they're being sued. OpenAI is being sued, sadly, for that. But very many of my young and even older millennial patients came to me and very sheepishly said, doc, you know what? I couldn't reach out to you, obviously, in the middle of the night, right? So I just decided to go on to ChatGPT and just talk to it. I said, okay, all right. So they try to read my expressions. Am I upset about it? Am I, unwelcoming of it? It's okay, go on. Like, so are you okay with it? I said, I have no opinion about it. It's perfectly fine. You are supposed to explore. You're an intelligent human being. You know what, doc? Funnily enough, it said almost exactly what you say. And I said, well, okay, so I'm getting the validation that the AI says what I say. Who should feel validated? But they also said, and this is from so many of them, it starts to become repetitive for them after the first few. One guy went on to say, मैंने 3 अकाउंट बनाए. मैंने एक अपना वर्जन, एक और दूसरे का जिसके साथ झगड़ा हुआ था उसका वर्जन और एक तीसरा और खोल के देखा. But it starts to become almost repetitive. This is where I enjoy, that therapy doesn't allow me to become consumed with my own thought. So maybe yes, I'm not afraid. I'm excited, to be honest. What does it hold in store? Can it really replace things? They say the AI bubble is also being burst at the moment. But young psychiatrists, don't be worried. Your job is safe. You'll always be here. And prescription लिखने जैसी चीज़ कभी भी हम outsource नहीं कर पाएंगे fully. Maybe molecule choosing, yeah, why not brainstorm with another intelligent person and say, okay, this is a better molecule for this person. But no, nobody's going anywhere.
What about de-addiction and what about the psychedelic psychiatry you were telling us about?
So psychedelic assisted psychiatry and psychotherapy is a new field. Psychedelics are drugs which cause your brain to basically hallucinate, have a lot of vivid, effects on it, LSD, MDMA, etc. So microdosing, and there's been so much research around it that now there are these pills. Just for the viewers, let me tell you, don't start recreationally doing these yourself. There are pills which are being created with a specific amount of LSD or MDMA and psilocybin, which shows great effects in depression, in OCD, anxiety, even substance use for that matter, behavioral addiction for some people. Ketamine is already available. Ketamine-assisted psychotherapy is amazing. Like how I used to say ECT is amazing, ketamine assisted psychotherapy is amazing. So that's going to be the future. It's been approved in countries like Canada, Australia, parts of USA. It will slowly come to India. Certainly, psychiatrists are going to be at the forefront of writing and prescribing and monitoring all of this, hopefully doing therapy also along with it. That's one great, exciting new field of psychiatry. The second is de-addiction. It's sad, de-addiction has stayed almost stagnant over the years, meaning we haven't necessarily, getting rid of addiction is extremely a hard job. And if somebody can overcome it, fantastic. Kudos to them. But yes, addiction is one place where I feel that a lot of work happens, then unhappens, then happens. It's like a revolving door problem. So I always tell people that jo experiment karna start karte na drugs ke saath, I say, you know what, when this rabbit hole will start, it's very hard to pull yourself out. So it's better to stay out of the rabbit hole rather than
What
get
about,
in.
is de-addiction center a good financial bet for psychiatrists?
Absolutely. If you follow all the ethical, legal rules, and now procuring, Punjab is full of de-addiction centers, by the way, whole Punjab belt, because opioid is so rampant there. De-addiction centers make money from the following models. One is, of course, admit karke inpatient detoxification. Second is rehabilitation. So there are NA, Narcotic Anonymous programs. There is rehabilitation. They teach them yoga. They get them to do some vocational work for the ones from the lower financial status. And the third is through dispensing buprenorphine, which is something to counteract your addiction for opioid. I'm talking about the Punjab model. Now let's talk about the luxury de-addiction. Huge financial model. If you can have a huge space, farmhouse kind of a space, calm, serene, nature, have psychologists, yoga, group activities, NA, good food, hygienic rooms and all, you can make upwards of easy 1 CR a month. तो मैं मजाक की बात कर रही हूँ. That's just the bare minimum that you can make. Bottom line, of course. But yeah, you can do great things in de-addiction. Procuring the license can be a cumbersome job. Typically, 2-3 psychiatrists combine together and open a de-addiction center. True. So group practice in psychiatry is another lucrative way for young psychiatrists to get started. Meaning, you finish psychiatry, I finish psychiatry. We are in the same state. Let's not be competition to each other. Let's not assume we are against each other. Let's do something together. How can we do that? We can have an OPD where you see, let's say, all sexology patients. I see all child psychiatry patients. So now I'm not sort of invading in your territory. Second thing, let's open a rehab center together. So you can cover when I'm traveling, I can cover when you're traveling. Plus, we also have the whole system better managed because ek se bhale do.
I think sexual health is one space where, okay, you're talking about psychiatry, but I believe everybody is getting into that space because, again, a big taboo and somebody who can speak freely on this topic, they normally tend to get a lot of views as an influencer, and there are so many influencers in this field.
Yes.
So, is this field, especially the sexual health, is muddled by the influencers, or is it still has some sanctity involved?
Sadly, it is being extremely misused by self-proclaimed coaches, gurus, healers, and influencers. It truly belongs, if you ask me who to go to for sexual problems, that's a very common question. Logo ko ye nahi pata hai. If I have a sexual issue, who do I go to? Number one, you can go to either a psychiatrist because sexual medicine is a part of what we do. You can go to a dermatologist if you have a disease per se, have a fungal infection, etc. There are sexologists, but again, sexology is just a certification that a lot of people will do either after MBBS or even after MD in any particular field. So this field is not structured properly, which is the market that these influencers have taken advantage of. There are not clear guidelines about it. All of these over-the-shelf counter things that enhance your masculinity are being misused and being pumped out into people. Some are even detrimental for health for that matter. So this entire segment has been extremely unstructured for most of it. I think it's getting better. Again, in India, we don't talk about sex. Talking about sex is a hush-hush topic. So most people who are talking about it are the ones who are willing to take the flack of the consumer, but a lot of them are not credible people. So Yeah, you have to be
But
mindful.
I give them huge respect because
Yeah.
they are the ones who are getting, sexual positivity, talking about sex. I think that's a big step
It's
from
a very
them.
difficult thing. Absolutely. I would be very honest. Not only talking about it, but the kind of comments that some of them get,
Yes.
dealing with that is hard. I do wish that more people do, with proper legitimate degrees, take this field up and follow it through, much like dermatology. It is as much scope, if you think about it, proper ट्रीटमेंट बट मोस्ट ऑफ इट इज़ इन वेरी शॉर्डी. आपने देखा वो लगे होते हैं ऐसे पैम्फलेट लगे होते हैं दीवारों पे गुप्त रूप की
हाँ,
तरह
गुप्त
से.
रूप की
दैट्स हाउ वी ट्रीट सेक्सुअल हेल्थ इन इंडिया. वी डोंट टॉक अबाउट इट इनफ.
आपने भी देखा होगा that the kid who came in Amitabh Bachchan's KBC show. So on Twitter, a lot of psychologists basically came up. Some of the psychiatrists also came up discussing the problem that the kid had. Now I could see that one psychologist had said that his parents must have bet him a lot, and that is why he's like this. And a lot of psychiatrists went against that statement. I'm sure you must have seen that. So what's your opinion on that thing?
We did jump to conclusion on that one a lot. I do believe that extrapolating, so causation and correlation are not always the same thing. And we have to be mindful. My worry is that young children are being put on social media so much. I don't put my child on social media, and for a good reason, because I strongly believe that children should not be put on social media. Abhi hame hi nahi navigate karna aaya hai. And we all have an opinion in our country. So it was unforeseen for this particular kid. I did also make content around it, by the way, full disclaimer, where I talked not about the parenting, not about the kid. I said, you know what, I am no one to judge bad parenting, good parenting. I make 10 mistakes as a parent in a day. I proudly make mistakes. I am no one to comment कि ये बच्चा बदतमीज है कि नहीं. I did talk about the soft sign that, have you noticed that sometimes ये जो चंचल बच्चे, जो बहुत impulsive बच्चे होते हैं, इनको हम ना बैड बिहेवियर करके साइड कर देते हैं. समटाइम्स इट कुड बी टॉकिंग अबाउट अ मेंटल हेल्थ इशू मच डीपर. इट कुड ऑल्सो बी जस्ट जनरेशन. आर यंगर जनरेशन may have lesser bandwidth because of the screen time that they get and the less stimulation that they get. But I think आजकल हर चीज़ का मुद्दा बन जाता है सोशल मीडिया पे. सो if you are on social media, if you are consuming something, know that it will shape the way you think about it. But then as a psychiatrist or as a psychologist, be mindful that a lot of people are going to think आपने जो बोला है वो सत्य है. So मैंने भी कभी-कभी ऐसे पोस्ट बनाए हैं जहाँ पे मैंने कुछ बोला है and a lot of people have pointed out that no doc, this doesn't make sense, this is not seeming okay. And I've sat back, reflected upon it, and I've humbly taken out that post. So I think we all make mistakes in this journey. So be mindful, be aware, maybe be careful about putting your children on so much of social media as well.
So psychiatrists basically, they become a content creator to increase their career?
Should they and do they have to? These are two different things. Should तो देखिए imperative होता है, but you have to realize to connect with the masses, you need to be an identifiable face. You need to be somebody that seems approachable. You need to be somebody who makes sense beyond just the disorder part of it. Young doctors can consider content making as one of the main ways to reach the masses. Once upon a time हम छोटी छोटी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस करते थे या छोटे छोटे सेमिनार्स करते थे, तो मैं कितने लोगों से बात कर पाती थी? 100 लोगों से. When I go and speak at a corporate, I speak to 500 people, 10,000 people if it's a very big corporate, let's say. And I could only touch those many lives to talk about preventive measures when it comes to mental health. Today, we have the voice to reach the masses. Done correctly, done with the right intention, not necessarily to make money on social media, but to be creating content about awareness. Yes, psychiatrists should definitely try their hands at content creation. बट अगर तुमको कंटेंट क्रिएट करते करते ज़्यादा स्ट्रेस हो रहा है तो ऐसा कोई रूल नहीं है कि उसके बिना तुम्हारी प्रैक्टिस नहीं चलेगी. ये बहुत ज़्यादा यंग क्रिएटर्स हैव आस्क्ड मी एंड साइकियाट्रिस्ट्स हैव आस्क्ड मी, मैम मैं नहीं बनाऊंगा तो क्या होगा? उनका कुछ नहीं होगा. इट्स नॉट अ शुड, इट्स नॉट अ इम्पेरेटिव, इट्स अ प्लस. इट्स दैट एक्स्ट्रा रीडिंग बिट. सो if you are someone who's starting off your social media content journey, let me tell you why I started mine, and every time I move away from that, I have to come back to that same intention. I started mine for a very simple reason. I saw back in 2017 a lot of gyan on social media, which was not correct and was by pseudo gurus and influencers who just talked about mental health calling depression whatever they wanted to, anxiety whatever they wanted to, calling everything OCD, calling everything every textbook of narcissism to everything. So I felt, look, this is something that I eat, breathe, and talk about, and I wanted to create awareness about the credible thing. So that is the main intention, to spread awareness. It's not to mint money. That, at least in psychiatry, that should not be the idea. Otherwise, you'll start getting pulled towards things of brand endorsements which don't align well. Maybe for dermat it makes sense. I completely get it, because they can vouch for products based on their research. In psychiatry, we have to be mindful. So be mindful if you're creating content on psychiatry. Your words hold a lot of importance. You're talking about human behavior. Don't over-pathologize. Don't over-generalize, like I said in the beginning. Yes, you can make money from social media also. I'll leave it at that. So definitely do get into this field. There's enough non-medical influencers. We need more medical influencers.
So ma'am, can you just list down how to make money from social media?
Okay. Social media for doctors, psychiatrists, I'm only focused on psychiatrists, are going to be able to make money through brand endorsements. But more importantly, you're going to be a relatable face who can then be called and invited for some kind of a talk. My biggest win on social media has not been just the endorsements, but actually the talks where people have seen my content, found it reasonable and resonated with it, and then invited me for extremely big talks. My first TEDx talk was because of my social media. Then onwards, every TEDx person said, oh, she's done one, she's on social media, let's call her. So that appearance of who you are and the credibility, very helpful. But please be mindful that social media brand endorsements are full of things which are medico-legally we are not allowed to endorse. डॉक मैं अगर एक महीने में मेरे को 10 endorsement आती हैं, उसमें से मुझे 9 को ना इसलिए बोलना होता है, वो unethical होती हैं, वो pseudo-scientific होती हैं, and they're selling some magical cure for mental health, जिसमें कि मैं बिल्कुल नहीं believe करती. I'm sorry, they throw money like anything, but वहाँ पे you have to stick to your value system and say no to something that doesn't align with your value system. If you're going to pick up a random magic potion and say, take this, as a doctor I'm telling you it works for your OCD, you're doing wrong by the textbook. So say no to that money. But yeah, your visibility will get you goodwill, will get you good talks, and that will make you reach even more targeted people that you need to reach out to. That's it. That's the way that doctors can make money from social media.
So can you share the most interesting case that you have seen in your career?
Define interesting.
Up to you.
Now, obviously, no names will be shared because I'm not allowed to, obviously, as a case, ever report a name. I think, let me tell you about the most heart-touching cases. It's the ones that stay with you. One is where gender identity dysphoria was involved, where somebody wanted to basically transition from male to female, and they were already married, and how their partner supported them through that. So this gentleman was already married, had a wife, had a kid, but he wanted to transition into a female, and he'd always lived like a woman in a man's body. And his partner supported him through that. And she came for every sitting till I sent him to the endocrinologist to get the shots and, do transition finally. It was a heart-touching moment that this woman understands this person and is supporting. So it was not a sad story. It was the most liberating, humanly emancipating story for me in my head. And I thought, wow, this is love. Love is extremely different than what we imagine it to be, right? Accepting. That has stuck with me somehow. I can never let go of that.
And are they still together? I'm just asking.
Transition ho gaya hai. So the fun part is I have moved away from that place, but sends me a message. My hormones are done. My transition has started. So yes. And together, yes. So for me, that is extremely heartwarming.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ira. It has been an insightful conversation, but the podcast doesn't end here.
Oh, no.
We still have some questions for you.
Okay, let's
All
get
right.
it.
So, ma'am, one movie that made you cry.
P.S. I love you.
What's
It's about grief. It's about grief. Just
What's your favorite vacation spot?
home. Wherever home is.
Which Indian city has the best food? You have traveled a lot. You have been...
Ouch. Okay, for Chinese, Kolkata.
Yeah.
And for North Indian food, Delhi.
Yeah. You can't beat that.
That's it. That's it.
मुंबई में कुछ पसंद आया था आपको?
Yeah,
महाराष्ट्र में?
Mumbai pav bhajis and vada pavs are nice, and Goa for its seafood, of course.
What's the first thing that you bought with your own salary?
With my first salary, I bought I put it to Bhagwanji, actually. It was 500 rupees, my first private patient money, not salary. And then I bought a pizza for the second salary.
One advice that you will never forget.
Be kind to yourself and others, and good things will follow through.
Happiest moment of your life?
When I had my child.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was such a great discussion. I think you have given us everything we needed to know about psychiatry. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much, everyone, for watching today's show. I believe, again, just repeating myself here, psychiatry, it's totally dissected. Everything you need to know about psychiatry, the ways, the working, the kindness, the empathy, and the most interesting case, again, that ma'am has shared. We have got to know everything about it. So thank you so much for watching today's show. And just like every time, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and share this episode with somebody who is planning to take psychiatry as a branch for their future. Thank you so much and best of luck.